Powell to the people, where civility is always in style. And boy, I got good feedback on that one. Hey, we're glad that you're with us. KXEX 1550 AM, Saturdays at 4, Sundays at 6. You get to listen to Powell to the people, where civility is always in style. We talk politics, education, religion, technology, sports, values, and communities, and healthy communities. And you know what? If you want to hear about it, we'll talk about it. And it's always good because we get some great guests on. You also can catch Good News with Larry Powell. Nothing but good news stories, Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Tell you what, if you want to hear a good news story and be pumped up, all you got to do is tune in to KXEX 1550 AM. And I'll tell you what, you can also catch us on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We've got it. You need it. We let you listen to it when it's good for you. Listen, I wanted to remind you folks, we're so glad you're with us today. Wanted to remind you that coming up on October 8th, we've got a fantastic tournament, golf tournament, raising money for CEF, Child Evangelism Fellowship. It's the 4th annual Darrell Rogers Golf Tournament. And I'll tell you what, they just do a great job. As you know, Darrell Rogers was the former football coach at Fresno State. He basically got us started on a high-end track for everything that happens at Fresno State football. So great guy. Knew him personally. He was a good buddy of mine. But we've got a golf tournament. We raise a lot of money, do a lot of good things. Got some great people. In fact, John Barron's former quarterback at Fresno State under Darrell Rogers is one of my co-chairs for the committee. So we want you to check it out. It's the Northern California Central Valley section of CEF. But come and join us. It's going to be a great tournament. And all you got to do is simply sign up. If you'll give a call to 559-226-5539. We'll get you signed up. It's a great time. We always have 144 players, so get signed up so you got a spot. Hey, listen, today I've got a great guest with me, Susan Wittrup, who is a candidate for the Fresno Unified Trustee Board. You know, Susan, we're so glad that you're with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Larry. Good morning.
Yeah.
I appreciate being here.
Yeah, nice to have you with us. You know, I always have told people from the time I started thinking politics, and I majored in politics, political science when I was in college, that the most important elected position in America is school board, because you have the most direct impact on thousands of kids and on what our society is going to look like in a short period of time. So I say kudos to anybody who wants to run for school board, because it's also the one that gets the most criticism.
Well, thank you, Larry. And I have to say that I know that you do a lot for this community, and also as an educator in Fresno Unified for the last 37 years. You are the icon of educational wisdom. I very much appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, we're sure glad that you're here. And, you know, folks, what I want to do whenever I bring a candidate on is I want to talk to them and to you about their history, and then we get into the politics side and all the things, the good things that she's got planned. But I want you to know a little bit more about her. So, Susan, where did you grow up? Where were you born? And what was your travel in life that got you to Fresno?
Well, I was born in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay. Ohio is when it comes to presidential elections, Ohio is the bellwether state that tells us a lot of what's going to happen. So
yes, well, I wasn't even aware of that, though, for the first, because at 2 years old, we moved, and I lived in Huntsville, Alabama for a while,
Okay.
where I went to kindergarten, and then Atlanta, Georgia, through 6th grade, and Dallas, Texas after that.
Wow, you got the whole South covered.
I almost. And I landed in Fresno, California at the age of 13 years old.
Wow. And so where did you go to school when you got here?
I started at Ahwahnee Middle School
an
as an 8th grader.
Okay.
And at that time, they had 9th grade there, too.
I remember.
And
yes.
then I graduated from Hoover High School.
Hoover Patriot.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Well, how neat. I'm a McLean grad, so we had a lot of good battles over the years, but all healthy battles.
That's right. That's right.
Well, so high school at Hoover High, and then what'd you do after that? Because I know we're going to talk about your work history and things, but where did you go to college?
I went to college at Fresno State.
Okay.
And
we're both Bulldogs.
And then also University of Pacific.
Okay.
Here in town.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I want to go back to when I was 13 years old, just coming to Fresno.
Yeah.
Okay, my parents had just gotten divorced, and that was kind of a crucial time in my life.
Seminal moment in life, yes.
Absolutely. I watched the movie Miracle Worker.
Wow.
About Helen Keller
Yes.
and her incredible teacher, Annie Sullivan. And that is what inspired me at
Wow.
that time to become a special education teacher.
Is that right? That is a
Yes.
fantastic story. What a difference. My daughter is a special ed administrator teacher, and we have 2 grandkids that were adopted from meth mothers. And so she's perfect for that because she gets all of the craziness that goes on. And I think you may know my history. I was the head of special ed for Fresno Unified for a short period of time.
Yes.
So I love special ed because those kids just capture your heart. And you know what they're going through, and the parents and what they go through and stuff. So, kudos to you for choosing that as a profession. And what line within special ed did you go to?
So I started as a special day class teacher in 1985 at Easterby Elementary School.
Easterby, yes.
3rd and 4th graders. I remember every name of every child in my class.
Yeah.
And after that, I went on to CRAT and taught in the pre-adolescent day treatment program.
Yeah, big program there.
For kids that have some emotional issues.
Yes.
And I've also worked as a literacy coordinator, as a mentor teacher,
Wow.
and as a program specialist, and then as a school psychologist for the last 25 years in Fresno Unified.
Wow. Wow. And as a result of being a school psychologist, you get an inside view of what goes on in families and in students and all of those. I know as a county superintendent, as a superintendent in a district before that, and as all the administrative positions I've had, I've seen the struggles that families go through, and the value of a great school psychologist is second to none, helping them survive and thrive and actually get through those circumstances.
That it's so important. And I have to say, this is a huge accomplishment with Fresno Unified, is that just the last board meeting, before this last one this week, they authorized 23 school psychologist positions.
Oh, I love
positions. And
Fantastic.
never in the history of the district has that happened.
Yeah.
And it's a great time to support kids.
That's wonderful. And in fact, within the last few years, Fresno County Office of Education under Jim Iovino, the superintendent, has collaborated with the County of Fresno and now are delivering all of the mental health services through the Fresno County Superintendent's Office, which I think is fantastic because now you're marrying education and mental health in a really fantastic way. So it's going to help change. So 23 new psychologists, that's fantastic. That's good news for a lot of families here in Fresno Unified.
It absolutely is. And as it rolls out, it looks like we're going to have a school psychologist at every school full time.
Wow.
That has never happened in the history of my career, and I'm thrilled to see that happening.
Well, as a psychologist, you have to be going about time.
Yes. The need is there.
It
Larry.
is.
It really is.
Well, and when you think about, let's add in the second highest poverty district in the nation, basically Fresno Unified, the challenges are enormous, absolutely enormous. And so when you start thinking about all of the things that are happening there, it is a big challenge. And what we need to do is stuff with mental health. I mean,
right.
To help our kids be able to survive and thrive is what I like to say. One of the things I'm working with some folks on basically bringing social emotional, training and programs back to kids. COVID kind of just destroyed families.
Yes.
It was 2 years of isolation, separation. How do you get along with kids, with each other, all of those kinds of things. So the fact that we're getting some social, emotional, and what I call positive social interaction coming back, so we learn how to actually thrive together with our differences and everything else. It's about time. So
it
good
is.
news.
And our kids really need it. Coming back after COVID has been very rough.
Yes.
And they need everything we can do to support them socially, emotionally, and academically.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, so we know your route from Dayton through Alabama and Georgia and Texas. So
Yes.
you've got the whole southern part covered. And I love all of those places, by the way. They're great cities. And then end up in Fresno, 13 years old. You get to experience your entire, middle school, high school career here in Fresno Unified, where you're now wanting to be a trustee. So you've got some personal experience with it. You've got a good idea of what's going on. But I wanted to ask you a couple of other things. Who was your favorite teacher? Do you have a favorite teacher as you look back at your Wani years and Hoover years?
I've had so many great teachers.
Yeah.
So many great teachers. Mrs. Gardner was a writing teacher in middle school.
Okay.
And she inspired me to write.
I love it.
I was quiet and shy as the new kid in middle school.
Yeah.
And but I really found an outlet with writing, and she did a beautiful job, not just in teaching the instructional part, but in the inspiration and encouragement part as well.
Wow, Mrs. Gardner, shout out to Mrs. Gardner. Listen, I can't believe how fast these segments go. We're done with our first segment, Susan. So we're going to be right back. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down. The People on the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. You're listening to KXEX 1550 AM. We're so glad that you've joined us today. And I have a special guest today, Susan Wittrup, who is a candidate for Fresno Unified trustee. And, I've talked about this a lot. And Susan, what a challenge you take on when you take on a school district. And having been involved in education for 43 years, I know the intricacies in and out of the whole thing, and I know the challenges, and I know the joys and the criticisms that come along with it. So kudos to you for being willing to step up and to do this. I did want to ask you, Hoover, what was it like for you at Hoover High School?
Well, it was a whole different time.
Yeah.
Unbelievably. When I attended Hoover High School, there was a smoking area for students.
Wow.
Yeah.
That does take us back a little ways,
That
doesn't
takes
it?
us way back,
Yeah.
right?
I'm looking to the Board of Education now, to the seat of learning we also used to have.
We had that too.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
way up through my first few years of teaching, actually.
Yeah.
That was in the principal's office. It was a very different time.
It was a different time. I'm so
Yes.
glad we're in the time we're in.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, was Jack Hanna there at the time?
Jack Hanna was there, and I remember him by name and by seeing him. I
Yeah.
wasn't in any of his sports programs.
Yeah,
But
right.
yes, he was a presence that I do remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
And folks, just to remind you, Jack Hanna just recently passed away, 88 years old, had a fantastic ceremony for him out at People's Church. Over 800 people showed up. It was a great time. He and I were friends for 55 years, and just a great guy. Loved kids, loved the community. Sons of the San Joaquin, go buy that album, by the way. Well, I call it an album, CD. Go check it out. But yeah, Hoover High School, the Patriots, just a great history as a school. They started in the 60s,
Yes.
and they've been around now for, a number of years. I still think of them as new. I was at McLean High School when they first started. And I think so. But the Hoover High Patriots and the McLean Highlanders had a lot of interesting battles over the years. So
We were very invested in our programs.
yeah,
Yes.
no doubt about it. That's for sure. So you were a school psychologist for 25 years.
Yes.
I was looking just at your resume. You've been at almost every school in Fresno Unified. I think it's
right.
one of the values of being a psychologist. At the time, you were multiple schools that you were assigned to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you ended up with a really good sense of what was going on in the district over that period of time.
Yes. And I've had an opportunity to work in every region of
Right.
our district and for extended periods of time, and also by responding to crisis there.
Yep.
And so you get a feel for how that works, and sometimes it feels like you're in a different universe when you go across town. What one region area is
Yes.
very different from the other.
And that experience is really going to serve well as you're on the board, because you'll get an opportunity to draw on that and to know what families were facing in different areas, because Alan Autry used to talk all the time about, the tale of two cities, north of Shaw and south of Shaw. And those of us who have worked in Fresno Unified and been around, we know the struggles that families have. And it's not that families in the north don't have struggles, but it's a different kind of struggle. And the more I know about that, the more I can serve them. And I know that you in that position are going to be able to do that as well.
Yeah. Larry, when I was a special day class teacher at Winchell Elementary School, I used to take my students at the end of the year. We would go to Fresno State. We'd take the city bus down Cedar from there, go to Fresno State and have lunch, do some bowling, talk to, have some tours of the library and the grounds. And my students, what really stood out for me is my students thought they were in a different place, that they would have to call long distance to contact their parents. They asked me, is it long distance if I call home?
Boy, it gives you insight into how the struggles are. I know a lot of kids have never been to the coast. They've never been to the mountains. So for them to get north or south of where they live is a different deal.
It's a whole different world. And that's what I did with my students from Winchell. We went to the coast.
I love it.
We went to Yosemite. We went across town. Very valuable.
They get to see there's a different world out there than that neighborhood.
That's right.
Because they've got blinders on in a lot of ways. And our job as educators is to take off the blinders and help them see their potential. I talk a lot of times about every kid is both an irritation and a gift. And our job is to diminish the irritation and enhance the gift.
That's a good way to put it, Larry.
So, because we all know how the struggles that they have. Well, tell me a little more. You're going to run for a school board. You're in the process. You've been doing this for probably almost 2 years, a year and a half of intense. What's the district like? Where do they need help? All of the questions that you're asking. So what are the things that you've come to a conclusion about that really need some things done?
Well, it has been a 15-month tour of listening and learning to a lot of different people in the community.
Yeah.
Door to door, talking to parents, which is the best way to hear about what's really going on. Because
Absolutely.
There are patterns that keep repeating themselves.
They do.
That I hear at the doors. And we need to get our academic achievement back up for reading, writing, and math. We need to really hyper focus on that. And we need to offer interventions that is special instruction and help for kids that are behind.
Right.
To bridge those gaps that they're having. And they're having a lot after COVID. It's more than what we normally would see. But the good news is, Larry, we know how to fix it. We know how to do it. It's not hard. We need to do it as a system. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the academic side, if kids become successful, they become taxpayers. They help pay my retirement.
That's right. And crime goes down.
Crime goes down.
We have a pool of people that business owners want to hire.
Yes.
That's so important.
And if we want our community to continue to grow, expand, to become seen as the 34th largest, city in the nation, and to carry with it the acclaim that brings with it, we want our kids to have a great education, an absolutely great education. And the better education, the more likely our community is to thrive.
That's right. And there's no reason we can't do it, because our kids are so ready. And they just need us to take them by the hand and embrace them and move them forward. They are ready, and they have so much potential. And we have incredible talent in this community in the educational arena. We don't always get to see it, but there are pockets of perfection all throughout our school district where kids are thriving despite the system.
Yeah, exactly.
My goal is that they will thrive because of the system, that all children will thrive because of the system.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we've got people on Broadway. We've got people in athletics. We've got, we really do have a broad spectrum of folks who are successful. And our goal is that every kid reaches their full potential. That's what we're after. And school boards have a lot of say in how that works and what's going to happen. So what are some of the key issues that you spotted immediately that you thought need some addressing?
Well, one that comes up a lot is that parents want to be heard, and they
Yep.
need that. Actually, for any policy that any great policy, let's just say that it's a great policy already. Any great policy that we want to push forward, we really need to bring our parents along with us, because they are going to tell us things and give us information we hadn't really considered as educators.
Yeah.
And they have strong feelings about things which we need to listen to. So that's a message I'm hearing over and over at the doors, about the curriculum that we teach, about the decisions that we make overall that just affect our children.
No, exactly.
They want a voice. Our teachers need to have a voice in that as well, because they can save us a lot of headaches by telling us what will work and what won't work in the classroom. And that's very, very valuable. So
absolutely.
And students should have a voice too. Older students in high school, about some of the, we have 2 on the board, which is great.
Yes.
We need students' voice as well, but all stakeholders do, because the success or failure of a great policy is going to live or die with your parents' support.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that is interesting in my history, I had polio, as people know, in 1949. So I wear a brace on my right leg. Never stopped me from doing much of anything, because I had parent advocates. Mom and dad were absolutely phenomenal. Before there ever was special ed advocates, they were advocates, and they were not about to allow me to do anything but participate in all the regular ed and everything else that was going on, in spite of the polio. And it's interesting. I like to tell people, somebody tried to put me in the institution. I began running the institution. So
I can believe that,
as superintendent. So, but I love giving kids the opportunity to reach their full potential and to see what that possibility is, because once kids catch on to I can be successful, they will be successful.
Yes.
So tell me some other things that you're wanting to do as a board member that you've seen that need some addressing.
Well, another area is our facilities.
Yeah.
Our school facilities are looking pretty shabby, and I'm very happy to hear that we're going to have more landscapers, more maintenance crews assigned to the schools. But just walking through the schools in the area, there's a lot that needs to be done. And I want our schools to be inviting, safe, engaging places that can be community hubs
Yes.
for the neighborhood. And one of my op-eds that I wrote is on my website.
What's your website?
It is www.susan4trustee.com.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one of the things I talked about was building high school stadiums at our schools.
You know what? Let's pick this up after we get back. Once again, folks, we finished our second segment. You've been listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. My special guest today is Susan Whittrip, who is a candidate for Fresno Unified School Board. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down. To the People on the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We're so glad that you're with us today. My special guest is Susan Wittrup, who is a candidate for Fresno Unified School Trustee, School Board. I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. One of the toughest jobs, elected jobs in America, is a school board, because you are so close to the people. They get to see everything you do all the time. Susan, kudos to you for being willing to put yourself out there for this. I know you've been at it for 15 months or so, doing that listening tour that you mentioned, and trying to figure out, okay, what are people saying about education that would be valuable to you as you get into that position, to be able to help them reach their full potential, families reach their potential, and to become the people they want to be. Before we get into that, again, I wanted to just mention, give me your website again.
Susan, the number 4, trustee.com.
Yeah, so www.susan4trustee.com if you'd like to get more information about Susan. I was looking at one of your flyers, and I thought I'd just mention to folks, you've got some pretty impressive people that are signed up behind you. You know, obviously Sheriff Margaret Mims, one of my good friends, got Mike Carbassi, city councilman, Fresno Police Officers Association. So you got some big name folks, and you're seeking to represent the Bullard area, and folks who were divided in Fresno Unified by high school areas generally, and a good opportunity to really focus in on what's needed in that particular area. But at the same time, you're being elected to represent all of the district, and so you want to know very much what's going on in Bullard, but you also want to know what's going on in the full district. Tell me a little more about what your thoughts are in that.
Yes, we're working for all students.
Yep.
I'm assigned in the Bullard area when I'm the trustee. So it's both things. It's working with the entire district and systemic changes that are needed to improve the systems throughout and increase our capacity and make sure our kids are embraced.
Yep.
And also looking with more of a microscope at what's going on in the Bullard region that can be fixed and that's unique to the Bullard region.
Right.
So,
well, that's one of the unique things that with the trustee situation, the way it's set up, is you get to be a strong advocate for a local portion, a region of the district, but you also have the overall view of everything. So I like that balance because you're required to help everybody. And when the region does well, the rest of the place does well too. So you want to be sure everybody gets their fair share, in a portion of what's going on. So I was looking at, you've also got Tom Torlickson, a former, superintendent of the state of California, is on here. Marshall Tuck, who ran for superintendent. You got a really broad, wide spectrum of folks. Alan Autry's on here, Fresno Teachers Association, Dwayne Zinkin, a lot of names from folks in the community. I'd really encourage you folks, go take a look. You've got Nathan Magzig and Tyler Maxwell. So you've got city council and you've got board of supervisors. So you've got quite a laundry list of folks who are on here, many of whom I've known. You've known folks, you've seen them in action, doing things for the community, in the community. So I'd really encourage you to check out her website, susan4trustee.com. All right, Susan, let's go back. It's one of the toughest jobs. I always want to ask people this: why would you seek a position that is this hard?
Well, that's a good question, and one that a lot of people have asked me over the last year. So I've been with the district 37 years. I just retired in June, and I cannot walk away from the school district in the shape that it's in right now. I feel called. I feel absolutely dedicated to changing it, and I know how to do it, and I know how to work with people, and I am all in on this.
Yeah, I love it. I tell people that I didn't retire, I refired, so I think that's kind of what you're doing, is that you're just transitioning to a different phase, but still being involved in education and utilizing all the background that you have and things. Well, for Bullard area, what issues have you run across that you think are some that need some attention and that you'd like to be a part of?
Well, the facilities need improvement.
Right.
And I've seen that firsthand.
And Bullard has a tough challenge because it's landlocked as well. And folks, just in case you don't know, Bullard used to be its own district. And so it had a defined area that was there. It became part of Fresno Unified, but it's landlocked. Houses all around it, Fig Gardens just down the street. So it's tough to expand that area without condemning houses or doing something like that. So whatever can be done to make sure that facility is top notch really has to happen.
That's right. And I've seen some deplorable conditions there. That's the low hanging fruit that can be fixed fast,
pretty quick, and
pretty easily. Doesn't cost a lot of money. Some of the other interesting things I've learned about the Bullard community as I've walked and talked with people in their homes is there are so many alumni living there.
Oh, absolutely.
People that graduated from Bullard all the way to the very beginning when it first was built in 1962, live there still.
Amazing.
And have grandchildren and great-grandchildren at Bullard now.
Yes.
There's a lot of retired educators that worked in the Bullard region, I'm finding, and a lot of active educators who live and work in the Bullard region. And they have strong pride and feelings about Bullard High School and about their whole region that you will see in the parent support that comes out at our schools. And that is a gold mine. It really is. Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I live in the Bullard area. So, I love the community. I was principal at Tenaya at one point in my career. And so I got to know families in a really, really solid way during those years. And they love their community. They love their kids. They're just like any parent. They love their kids. They're seeking the very best for them. And they will commit all kinds of resources and energy and things to make sure that it is successful. And they want to see nothing more than success there. And it is generational. It's really fascinating because I have folks who live there who were in high school at Bullard when I was at McLean, and they still live there.
Right.
The community is a long-lasting community, and a lot of really good things are taking place in Bullard, and families are willing to step up and do the right thing, for their kids. So, and I love the history. They've got a solid academic history. They've got a solid, in fact, their school kind of connection is really unique.
Yes.
Where if you want to be an attorney, they've got some things there, a mock court and all those kinds of
pathway,
things. Pathway to make that happen. There are a lot of things that are available to kids in the Bullard community, but it's also interesting. It's the reason a lot of kids outside the Bullard community would like to go to the Bullard community. And so I'd like to share with folks a little bit and maybe get your perspective on this. Bullard is an integrated school. It is not just an Anglo school anymore.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Very diverse.
Very diverse and integrated school, and it has thrived as a result of that. So maybe tell me a little bit about your perspective on that.
Well, it is a very integrated school, and what I saw there, I respond to crisis at Bullard. I was not the psychologist at Bullard.
Right.
But I did respond to crisis when things happened, and
you got called in.
I got called in, and one of the things that I saw over and over again is the connection that those kids have with each other. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about race. It wasn't about a socioeconomic status. Those kids are connected for the most part. And
they are.
And the staff. There's a very caring staff at Bullard that are invested in those kids. And I love to see that, because that is what makes kids successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We talk a lot about parents and how positive parents make a difference, positive teachers make a difference. And then when you have a superintendent that's been in a district for a sustained period of time, you also have a difference that's made with that. The Vegematic of constantly changing who the leadership is very tough. But Bullard now has a new principal on board, Armin Tarigian, who is also a graduate of Bullard.
That's right.
It goes right down to what you're talking about, that there are a lot of folks in Bullard who grew up in Bullard, stayed in Bullard, and are still supporting Bullard even today.
And can't wait to get back to Bullard. In fact, Armin Tarigian has told me several times this is his dream job.
Yes.
He has always wanted to return as principal of Bullard High School, and they're lucky to have him.
Yeah. It's amazing. He's a good guy. He did a great job at Tenaya in a very short period of time, helped to really get that school heading in a good direction. And he and I both were principals at Tenaya, so that's kind of something we've shared in common over the years. Tell me a little more about what else you're seeing in the Bullard area that you would particularly like to, we've only got a minute or so to go with this segment, but that you're really interested in doing something about.
So one other thing I wasn't aware of, but I'm learning at the door, is that a lot of our kids that live in the Bullard community are not attending Bullard High School. Parents have some concerns about safety that they've shared, and this is a pattern. This isn't just one or two. I'm hearing it a lot. And so they've moved their kids over to Clovis or private schools. I'd like to get those kids back.
Sure.
I'd like for Bullard to improve to a point that people move into the neighborhood because they want their kids to go there. They move into the neighborhood because Fresno Unified and the Bullard area is the best there is.
Yeah. Well, neighborhood schools are so unique, and America is one of those places that neighborhood schools work when families like their school. Teachers actually benefit, students benefit, everybody benefits. And we've got some great teachers at Bullard, so I know that
Yes,
there's
we do.
some folks that just love those kids. And I can't believe we're done with our third segment, Susan, but we're going to be right back. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We're so glad you're with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down. People on the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We're so glad, Facebook fans, that you're with us. Thank you for joining us. Be sure and hit that share button and send this all around. We want folks to learn more about Susan Wittrup and her candidacy for a board position in Fresno Unified. I'm so thankful we have people like Susan who are willing to step up and to do this kind of work, because it is sacred work in a lot of ways. And just want to encourage you, send this around to your friends, hit that share button and let them see. But also, we've got it on Spotify, we got it on YouTube, we've got it on just about everything you can imagine. We stream this when you can listen to it, and we're certainly glad that you're listening today. Well, we're down to our last segment, Susan, and wanted to make sure we get a chance to talk about some other issues that you have in particular that are close to your heart, that you want to make sure folks understand where you're coming from, what you're thinking about. So maybe share with us what you're thinking.
Well, if in a nutshell, Larry, when kids are excited to be at school every day, when they love school, and we create the conditions that support that, guess what's going to happen?
They're going to learn.
That's right. They're going to learn.
Yeah.
And so if I only had one sentence to say out of all of this, I would say my dream and my goal here is for kids to love school and to love being at school.
Yep.
And we need to create those conditions. We can do it.
And we control that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I want academic achievement to be very important, but also those activities that are enriching, those activities that a kid might not even go to school that day unless he was able to do the football practice or the swimming or the drama or the club, the elective that they love. So if we can inspire creativity and passion, we will have our attendance problems solved.
Yes.
We will have that in a nutshell would take care of so many things that we're concerned about.
No, I agree. It's an interesting time in California because the governor just sent down literally billions of dollars to education. So we can't waste this time. We have to make sure that we are utilizing it to the very best we possibly can, that you don't get these opportunities very often. And what are some things you think we should be doing with the money that the governor's sending down?
With the money that he's sending down, and I just have to say, never in my career have we ever had money
I know.
like we have now.
Yeah.
And that is just a pleasure. I'm really scared that I don't want to waste it. I want to do meaningful things with it.
Right.
And there is an urgency too.
Very much.
Our facilities need to be addressed. I would love to put a high school stadium at every high school that doesn't have one. And that's we only have two right now that do, Sunnyside and McLean.
Right.
I think that those stadiums could serve as a community hub for so many things. And I would love to see neighborhoods be involved in our high schools.
Rally around those.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that is something that Bob Nelson and I have talked about, and he says that is a possibility that they have looked into. So I'm excited to think about that, not just to have a building, but to create this idea of community hubs all around. And every one of our regions have distinct gifts and even their own cultures that
no
that
doubt
could be expressed that way. The other thing is we need to get the very best, brightest teachers and leaders at our school sites. and make sure that our instruction is top notch the very first time children encounter it, because that has the best chance of sticking.
Yes.
And also for the kids that are behind, that we immediately get involved and bring them up and give them some special help with that and monitor their progress.
Yep.
In a systematic way.
Yeah. Well, you and I both know, having been in Fresno Unified and in education for as long as we have, the classified staff is so critical to the success of any school. Your secretaries, bus drivers, cooks, custodians, all of those play such a critical role in what's going to happen, because I could not do my job without them.
They carry the weight of the district truly every single day. We could not even open the doors without them.
Yeah, exactly. I look back and I've run across some custodians that I had when I was at McLean High School and graduated in '66. And I remember them, and I've run into their family members, and they had such a care for us as kids. One of the cooks used to cook some special biscuits for me. It was just amazing how they really did care for the kids, and they continue to do so. Custodian that I had work for me at Kings Canyon Middle School, Ed Correa, absolutely remarkable individual. What he used to do, interestingly enough, is he would collect coins on the grounds as he was going around doing his business, and at the end of the year, whatever amount he had collected, he would buy a gift for a special kid he identified on campus, and he would call them into the office, and he would give them a gift. They really do care for their things, for the kids. And I think about all the bus drivers, how a school district is going to start the day a kid going to school is how a bus driver responds to that kid.
That's right.
And we know through psychology that if you tell a kid they're going to be successful, they're more likely to be successful. So when a bus driver says, "Hey, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me. I get to take you to school."
That's right.
You got a better chance of making it work.
And we have so many people in our district that just do that job. Travis Morris is a special education teacher teaching a SDC, special day class, for kids with severe autism at Star Elementary School, where he started in this district as a custodian.
Wow.
Okay.
What a great story.
Yes.
Wow.
And I've been at Star for the last 9 years working. It's an incredible school.
It is.
But we have, with staff like that, with people like that, we can't go wrong.
No.
There's so many of them. And they are the bus drivers, the lunch ladies.
Yes. Well, Kathy Scott was a principal at Star.
Yes.
She's a good friend of the family, and she was there for a long time and loves those kids as well. And every person I've ever heard at Star loves the kids, integrates the program. There's no special ed land.
No.
It's integrated. Everybody gets to be together, and I love that, because I've got 2 special needs kids that are grandkids, 2 special needs, and if they were ever to be treated unfairly or disproportionately or ostracized, you'd have a papa down there pretty quick.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, tell me, there's an issue going on at Bullard. Just want to get your opinion on with cell phones. Now, everybody who has ever taught knows that cell phones are good and bad. Cell phones can drive you crazy if kids use them inappropriately, and they can be a fantastic resource because they bring a museum, they bring resources. They can look up anything and do research right there in class, and you're not even paying for it. They are.
That's right.
So you've got good and bad with cell phones. Tell me what your take is on what they're thinking about with the cell phone packets.
Well, cell phones are a big distraction in class, and everybody agrees on that, as far as who I've talked to, including parents. And it is a bold move for Armin Turigian, the principal there, to step out and create a policy.
Yes.
I think that where things need to maybe press pause and take a little bit more time is to bring the parents on board and the teachers on board, because they have a lot to say that will actually make it more effective when it rolls out.
Gotcha.
So I'm all for a cell phone policy that the parents and teachers have had some say in.
And feel good about.
Absolutely. And ultimately, the success of any policy
Sure.
is dependent on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know how frustrating it is for teachers when a cell phone goes off, or and I know they're discussing, well, you're trying to keep people from being able to film stuff or video something. I don't see that as the case, but I certainly do agree. Parents need to be intimately involved in decisions that are like that, because I know if something were to happen on campus, I want more people being able to call out and say there's a shooter, there's something going on, rather than fewer. So there's a balance that can be struck, and I think that they can come up with that.
I have faith that they will come up with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. They're getting ready to implement something, and and it's kind of a mixed review. Some school districts and schools have been very successful with it. Others have struggled a bit. So let's talk it over. Let's make sure that we're on the right track with everything. And I have a lot of confidence in Armin Tarigian, because I know he cares for families, cares for kids, cares about education. He's got all of those things. So a little more discussion. We'll see where we could end up, and maybe we end up in the same place, but everybody's on board doing it.
Absolutely. And I commend Mr. Tarigian, Principal Tarigian, for taking that bold stand.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what he's taking on, and as a first year, so
very
much. It's a wild time. Well, I can't believe it. We're down to 1 minute and 15 seconds left in our last segment, Susan. Folks, I've had Susan Whittrip with me, candidate for Fresno Unified School District Board of Trustees. She is, getting into the hot end of the stick when it comes to politics when you become a trustee. Any last words? We got about 50 seconds. What would you like to leave our listeners with?
What I would like to say is, as Americans, we collectively believe that where you start in life should not determine where you end up. And it is incumbent on us to, as a city, as a community, to prepare our students to be productive citizens that local employers will want to hire, and that could be successful when they move on to university, career path, whatever that they like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a tremendous opportunity. Susan Wittrup, candidate for Fresno Unified School Board. She is running in this November election. I'd like to recommend you go check out Susan 4 trustee.com, and you can get more information, see who's on her list of supporters and some of the things she's thinking about. She's been a school psychologist. Thank you so much for being with us at Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We'll see you next week.